Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football, the USC commitment sweatshirt coming back on Thursday afternoon. It's been on a lot lately. This one, probably the biggest one yet. Five-star offensive tackle Keenyi Pepe committing to USC. There's a couple of things that jump out to me right away about this one. Number one, if you were to kind of sum up how USC is moving on the recruiting trail right now, you would point to this recruitment where, 6 months ago, USC was barely even a player for Keenyi Pepe. He's been on campus for the Miami Hurricanes, probably 15 plus times in the last 12 months. USC over the last 3 months makes up massive ground and locks in the commitment of Keenyi Pepe before we even get to the summer. You talk about the power, the momentum that USC as a program has on the recruiting trail. This kind of recruitment really resembles that. Number two, this kid as a player, it just doesn't get more blue chip than Keenyi Pepe. If you were to build a starting left tackle in the Big Ten in a laboratory, a guy that's going to be a top 10 NFL draft pick at some point, it would probably spit out an image that's pretty dang close to Keenyi Pepe, right? 6'7", kind of pushing 6'8", 320 pounds, carries that weight exceptionally well. Like you look at this kid and say there is not a lot of sloppy bad weight on his frame, and that shows up on the film. He's a phenomenal athlete for his size. That's why he's a top 10 national prospect in this 2026 cycle. The last thing I want to note here, Chad Bowden, in terms of building this roster, he's doing it right. This is the sixth offensive lineman that is committed to USC in the 2026 cycle. We talk about it all the time. What's the recipe for USC kind of getting back to that perennial national championship contender, especially in the Big Ten? It's winning the line of scrimmage. Like the one thing we know about USC coming into the Big Ten, this is coming from a Michigan fan, like a guy that's followed the Big Ten my whole life. USC is going to have a leg up on almost every Big Ten team in the country in terms of quarterback development and quarterback play. As long as Lincoln Riley's at USC, you're going to have some of the best quarterback play in this conference. We know that because history tells us that. What's it going to take for USC to kind of get over the hump? It's matching up with these Big Ten teams along the lines of scrimmage. You look at what Chad Bowden has come in and done over the last 3 months. Big time emphasis on recruiting these kids at the high school ranks along the lines of scrimmage. And it's not only on the offensive line. I mean, you take a look at the crop of defensive linemen, front seven members USC has coming in, it's elite as well. USC is quickly closing the gap and really emerging as a team that should have some of the best line of scrimmage play in the conference and really in the country over the next couple of years. That's the recipe. That's what it needs to look like for USC. And we talk about this all the time. If you are going to have a good offensive line in this landscape of college football, you got to get these guys out of the high school ranks. You ain't going to find any Keenyi Pepes that hit the transfer portal over the next couple of years. So make sure you're getting these kind of bodies at the high school ranks. USC has done that. Y'all know this. I don't really have to say it, but I'll say it anyways. What Chad Bowden has done in the last 3 months in terms of not only revamping the process that USC is going about in terms of building their roster, but just completely changing the perception of this USC program. It looks completely different. And we talk about this all the time. You'll have some other fan bases talk about, hey, USC built a lot of momentum last year, lost all their commitments later in the cycle. Look, I don't think this is tinted glass this year. It feels different in terms of how USC is going about their business and what USC feels like on the recruiting trail. Now, we spent the last 4 minutes kind of talking a little bit overarching. Want to get a little bit more nitty gritty in terms of what Keenyi Pepe brings to USC. Before we get into it, as always, the USC fans, y'all know I can't thank you guys enough. It's been so fun talking this program over the last couple of months, breaking down the commitments, talking about the targets. The amount of support y'all have shown the fellas has been amazing. Appreciate you guys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel and to all the stuff y'all been putting on Twitter and in the comment section. I've been having a blast talking ball with you guys. So appreciate you guys. Without further ado, let's get into it. Keenyi Pepe, 6'7", 320 pounds, carries the weight exceptionally well. What stands out to me about him, especially in pass protection, his feet are incredible for the size. You'll see some offensive linemen come out with this kind of size. You rarely see offensive linemen come out with his kind of athleticism at his size, elite feet. And so you look at Keenyi Pepe in pass protection at that left tackle position. Look, he's really hard to go through because he's 6'7", 320 plus, really strong kid. He's also really hard to win on the outside shoulder because he's got some real feet and he's got some real length. And so there's just not a lot of ways these opposing edge rushers will be able to beat Keenyi Pepe because he checks off just about every single box that you'll want to see in terms of offensive linemen, especially at that left tackle spot. Look, we talk a lot about Chad Bowden. I want to give a shout out to Coach Hansen too. I mean, you go head to head with the Miami Hurricanes, who won. Like, let's just give credit where it's due. Miami's done just about as good of a job as anybody in terms of developing offensive linemen going to the NFL. You go, and Keenyi Pepe's been on campus with Miami for really the last 12 months. He's been on campus probably 10 to 15 times. You go to IMG, and I know he's a West Coast kid, but you go to IMG where he spent the last couple of years, and you pluck him out of the state of Florida, kind of convincing Keenyi Pepe that, hey, USC is the place where you can come and get developed into the top 10 NFL draft pick we know you can be. And then the second thing, just look at the athletic profiles that USC is kind of stacking on the offensive line. We talked about, hey, maybe that USC offensive line looking a little bit thin going into 2025. That ain't going to be the case in the future. You got 6, really quality offensive line prospects coming in. And I'll tell you this, I don't know if USC's done adding offensive linemen in the 2026 cycle. This is going to be a very deep, a very talented room for the extended future for USC. The last thing I'll say is having this bona fide starting left tackle that you kind of know is going to be a starting left tackle for you for at least a couple of years. It allows you to get really creative with some other players. I go back to kind of what happened with Jonah. USC didn't have starting caliber tackle bodies, so they had to play Jonah at tackle where that probably wasn't his ideal position. Now you look at guys like Cannon Smith or a guy like potentially like Sam Mutu. Guys that probably can play tackle, but probably will be better guards. You can go play them at their positions they should be playing because you have your ideal prototypical starting left tackle in Keenyi Pepe. Getting into the film, we won't spend too much time because I don't think we need the film to tell us like this kid's a really good football player. Look at the feet in pass protection. Again, really hard to find offensive tackles that move the way Keenyi Pepe does. Really quick feet, phenomenal reactionary quickness, pretty good anchor for being 6'7" too. You continue to, this is probably the most impressive, and this is important, right? We know USC is going to ask their guards and tackles to pull play side and to block at the second level. You're going to see outside zone play to the right side of the offensive line. Keenyi Pepe, backside tackle. He needs to work up to this weak side backer. The amount of distance this kid can cover at the second level is incredible. I mean, look how quickly he climbs to the second level and reaches that will line. You ain't going to find many offensive linemen who can execute this block in space. Keenyi Pepe not only getting there, we'll put the guy in the dirt too. I mean, he's a guy that has some power at the second level. The one thing you want to see him clean up that I think he will is just playing a little lower, a little bit high pad sometimes, which you're generally going to see when you're talking about a 6'7" offensive lineman. But when he does bring those pad levels down, this is kind of the example of, hey, we're going to bring our hips. We're going to get our pads low. When he does that, I mean, he's moving bodies. He's moving bodies and putting them into the dirt. And that's what you want to see. He has really endless upside over the next couple of years for USC. And you look at this class in 2026, we said it yesterday night. We've been saying it all spring. I'll say it again. This feels like an inflection point with the program. USC at times under Lincoln Riley and the last couple of coaches has kind of struggled to find its identity again, right? And you look at 2026 and say, it feels like USC has figured that out. Look at where these commitments are coming from. Look, I mean, you got arguably 2 elite quarterbacks coming in, right? Ryder Lyons essentially a 2027 guy, but Jonas Williams, who is skyrocketing up boards, he's already committed. 2 blue chip running backs, a couple of really intriguing wide receivers, and I'm really interested to see where USC goes in the pass catcher department the rest of the class. What I want to focus on is look at this offensive line class. You got 6 guys already committed. Look, I'm going to leave. Some of y'all told me to take Cody Green off the list. I ain't taking Cody Green off the list until he signs his papers at Washington. And I don't think Chad Bowden has taken Cody Green off his board either. Sam Utu trending to USC, Malachi Lee trending to USC. You just land 2 out of those 3 that are not highlighted in red. You're talking about I don't mean to speak hyperbolically, but like legendary offensive line class with guys like Sam Utu and Malachi Lee potentially coming in and joining guys like Keenyi Pepe. Go to the defensive line. Already, we are in the 1st of May right now. You got 4 interior defensive linemen committed. You got 3 really talented edge rushers committed. You got one of the best, if not the best, off-ball linebackers committed in Xavier Griffin, with Talona Illy trending to USC too. Like, you look at, hey, we're spending so much time talking about what this offensive line class looks like, and that fires me up. What about the front 7? What about what this front 7 can be over the next couple of years? That could be elite too. Then you go to the back end. I mean, RJ Sermon's one of the best cornerbacks in the class. I know they have a lot of confidence in Brandon Lockhart too. We got a guy in Albert Hill, number 1 prospect in the state of Ohio, trending to USC. We might be breaking down that commitment sooner rather than later. And then another wide receiver that I'll just quickly shout out, Luke Weaver. Really interesting wide receiver, 6'3", 200 pounds, 11-second 100-meter dash, pretty polished wide receiver that can win in a lot of different ways. One of the things I think you're seeing here is, look, USC is going to take a big class in 2026. We've already established that. And it's not necessarily pressure, but these kids who want to come to USC, you kind of got to get in the boat quickly, because these spots are filling up, and that's one of the advantages of building such a strong class early. Is it's, hey, you want to be a part of this USC program, you got to commit sooner rather than later, because the spots are filling up pretty damn quickly. And so these players don't have the luxury necessarily of kind of extending this recruiting process out. They gotta get on board if they want to be on board. And we're starting to see that with USC kind of racking these commitments up. I don't think this will be the last commitment we talk about today. It might be, but if you're a USC fan, I mean, this is what it's about. You want to compete for national championships year in, year out. This is what your off seasons need to look like. The last 3 to 4 months, retaining Dan Lynn, keeping him from going back home to Penn State, bringing in Rob Ryan, obviously bringing in the front office that USC has brought in. They are operating like a national championship team. That's where it starts. You want to compete for national championships in the fall, you got to be a national championship team in the winter, in the spring, and in the summer. That's what USC is doing. We'll close it down there. Fire me up for Keenyi Pepe. Y'all know how I feel about him. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later.